Crazy Eyes, the new industrial record. I don't know how I came up with that or even if I did, but the song Take Me to Heaven sounded very unique to me and different. And I thought that was a great way to go for the record, to just kind of be less guitar driven and more electronic and stuff like that. Because, you know, in 1989 or in 1987, there were a few bands that were out that were just incredible. Ministry, Skinny Puppy, and that led to just, you know, anarchy in my head. I mean, all my favorite bands were guitar bands, you know, and I played guitar growing up as a result of that. But the electronic end of that kind of the industrial genre has always remained a big thing. Even to this day, all the other records have that as well. But I really wanted to focus on it because I feel like the big heavy guitar sound is it's been done to death, especially by us. I really wanted to just make something that was unique and original to itself. So Take Me to Heaven was directly like the thing that kind of led to that being the rest of the record. Bright blue eyes that go dark and then shut. Well, Crazy Eyes the record, the single was picked by the label. You know, every song I did on this record, I thought, honestly, to me, Crazy Eyes was supposed to be like my favorite record. Like I asked the label, you know, I said, listen, I just want to disappear and go make whatever I want to make, and I don't want to have a lot of constraints, you know, like I was when I was on Warner Brothers, and they were completely cool with that. They were like, do whatever you need to do. So I went out and I worked with all the guys I used to work with, and I ended up working with Umi Capella and Chris Reeve and Ashley Zerigian and Bobby Miller, and it was just so refreshing to work in a new kind of palette with new, fresh minds. And the label was like, Take Me to Heaven sounds like a big, you know, single to us, so we should do it. Actually, they said hit, so you know what I'm saying. But I leave that to them, you know. I always thought that Hey Man, Nice Shot was way too heavy for radio back in the day. I thought it was, the subject matter alone was way too intense, but that turned out to be one of the biggest songs we ever wrote. So I don't necessarily try and design a single or try and get on the radio. You know, I think that the audience can hear that. And so for me, just going away and writing music that feels good to me is the way to go. I gotta be honest, the rest of the record is pretty heavy. It's like there's a lot of really just anger in it, you know. You know, when I first started out, we were up in arms against, you know, like hair bands, and we hated, you know, the glossy, you know, sugared, you know, pop genres that were all out. I never thought that industrial music would ever get anywhere. You know, we were just angry. And guys like Al Jorgensen and, you know, Skinny Puppy, all those guys were so viciously angry. And I think that in today's music, I think that especially with everything that's out, it seems so friendly and so sugary and sweet. And I understand that, like, we're in darker times, but to me it's almost like we should be more focused on the real stuff that's happening in the world. You know, it's great to say I love you, and it's great to say I miss you and stuff like that, but at the same time it feels like music doesn't reflect reality. And I think that my favorite bands were always reflective of that kind of anger. And I didn't want to necessarily write a record that was specifically political, because I do that on my Facebook page, but I wanted to write a record that reflected the insanity that the world is going through right now. There's a lot of upheaval all over the Mideast. There's just everything. It's just insane. So Crazy Eyes is based on that insanity. Take me The messages are going to be my secrets. I don't necessarily want everyone to come away with my conclusions, but they're definitely reflective. In the same way that, everybody knows, Hey Man, Nice Shot. I didn't want that to be about what it was. I didn't want anyone to know what it was about because, there's a family involved and they had to go through that originally. But the first song is called Mother E. If you can figure out that one, you can figure out other songs. I mean, it's tragedy and real life, and so.
A dose of reality.
A dose of reality. I mean, I was all about that when I was younger, and I've always been about that anger. And I think that it can't just be heavy metal that has that anger. I mean, it has to be reflective and more melodic or industrial or stuff like that. I think that it has to be there. So. Well, ultimately, it's about production. I worked with Umi Capella. I worked with Danny Lohner. I worked with Ben Gross. But the ultimate thing is, it's just you put yourself in total charge of it and you have the final say. And if the artist has final say and you're the producer, you can just kind of get what you need out of the record. And so production is, it's a fine line between songwriting and production. They kind of industrial music, it goes hand in hand, and I just wanted that final say. I wanted that complete and total control over it. Working with other artists like Umi, he's a co-producer, he's a songwriter. I mean, so it was very connected, but at the same time, at the very end of it, it was like, this is the way it has to be. And you need that if you want to have a singular vision on it. I mean, the beauty of Filter is it started off, two guys and a computer, and it's, come all the way around. I mean, it's two guys and a computer usually, Danny Lohner, I went over to his house, I grabbed the bass, we were talking, I started playing some music, playing some bass. We came up with a beat, and you just feed off of each other until you get to a place. And it's usually like a lot of production is just saying yes or no. Like, I don't like that. Yes, I like that. And that pivots you to the final ending. And at the result, the funny thing is Crazy Eyes sounds more like a Filter record than the last three, because I just, I didn't take any. I just was just stringently on the path of, if it doesn't feel good to me, then it's not going to be Filter. It's going to be something else. So by having that final authority and that kind of bossiness, you end up with something that sounds like the old Filter records, and that's what I feel like I wanted to do for a while. But I've always had someone going, nah, trust me, and you're like, okay, I kind of want to do my thing, But this record is definitely that. It's definitely way more of just mistakes are kept, things like that, things that make it charming. The eccentricities of how I grew up as a musician, not really knowing what to do, not necessarily being, trained or, any of that kind of stuff actually makes you who you are. That's why I have a beef with all those American Idol and stuff like that. They're taking the charm out of people. Yeah. And I'd rather see Neil Young, who is not the best singer, he's not the greatest, but he's Neil Young. He's amazing because he's completely his own sound. He's his own uniqueness. So instead of having 1,000 soulful singers, I'd rather have Neil Young or someone that makes mistakes and laughs. And my favorite bands always make mistakes during shows, and I think it's awesome. That's what punk rock was all about. Well, you got to go out and tour. You got to go out and see the world, which is awesome. So that's what we're doing. We're going to do the next tour starts right as the record comes out. It's called the Make America Hate Again tour. Where did I come up with that? No, it's So it's going to be Orgy. It's going to be Filter Orgy, Death Valley High, and Vampires Everywhere. And that should be fun. Should I say something shitty? I read your email last night. Just say mean shit and fucking, you know.